Okay, welcome to the first week of the Tea Time with God, adult education class of Wences of the United Church of Christ. As always, as always, I want you to reach out to those of you watching the replay. You still number probably literally 80% plus of the people watching this. So I'm grateful for your the consistent turnout, even if the timing doesn't work out there. But how, as my spiritual director, the Maria, often puts it there, that God is independent of time, so it doesn't matter when you're watching this. It's that you're just as present in the eyes of God there as God if you're watching this next year as you're as the people that are alive now. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them either in the YouTube video comment section or to email me at jogrebe@gmail.com. Okay, this week we'll be focusing upon the gratitude and thanksgiving prayers. I am sure all of us have heard well-meaning people talk about the need to have blind faith. This is true especially during darker times of struggle. While Hebrews 11:1 does teach that faith is assurance of things hoped for, proof of things not seen, nowhere in the Bible are we called to have blind faith or blindly love and follow God. God's call for us to love and follow always focuses on and builds upon God's past actions and history of being reliable and good. God does not ask for or expect blind obedience or loyalty, but should be seen as good and reliable based upon our experience with God and what we hear from others. Just like anyone who has experience with pets, be it a cat, dog, or even a tortoise, they know that our pets soon learn to recognize the primary person who feeds them, and in turn, when hungry, looks to them for food. Nobody gets a new pet and instantly demands love and affection from it, but instead earns it by providing love and affectionate care to the pet. Some pets, such as tortoises, respond much slower, given their natural cautious and shy nature, but still respond to their owners just like dogs. And so it is with people before God. So in light of God's goodness to us, which is clearly present in the word around us, the simplest of all prayers that we can pray is thank you. The practice of gratitude and thanksgiving is a very powerful form of prayer that, in my opinion, should be actively promoted in church on a regular basis. My all-time favorite example of the practice of gratitude, which frequently comes to mind, is from America's Funniest Home Videos in the early 1990s. The video featured a little girl praying before dinner. Her prayer included things that you would expect a little child to thank God for, such as baby Jesus, her brother, her mom, her dad, and her friends. But she did not just pray for friends, but for her friends, her brother's friends, her mom's friends, and her dad's friends. Just like when it came to food, she did not just thank God for the food, but for the pizza, plates, cups, silverware, and sugar in what must have literally been everything on the table. The video of her praying went on to win first prize that week, which I now find strange that so many people found gratitude so funny. That little girl and her prayer is a very beautiful example of a person that is so open to seeing the goodness of God all around them that they become overwhelmed with a sense of joy, wonder, and praise. Of course, as adults, I think we would agree that this type of gratitude prayer list would be better suited for other more private contexts. Yet this is exactly the type of thing that Jesus loved, as little children in their simple faith cannot help to get excited and thank God for everything within their sight at the table before a family meal. I have no idea what that little girl is doing today, around 30 years later as a woman, but I hope that she still has the same sense of wonder and praise towards God's provision as she did as a child. As this is the kind of inspirational example that I would follow up in the manner of Jesus, and urge you to go and do so likewise. When it comes to the spiritual practice of gratitude, Ignatius of Loyola has a worthwhile perspective to look into. Ignatius of Loyola was the founder of the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits, or as they are more commonly referred to. Ignatius held a very love-centered view of the word, in which he held gratitude as the root of our virtues, and the lack of gratitude as the worst of our sins. In the principle and foundations of his spiritual exercises, he explained his love-centered view of the word, mainly that it was out of love that God created us and desires eternal life with us. All of the good things in the created word were created for our enjoyment by God, in order to allow us to more easily understand God's love for us and respond to it. Therefore, it is our interaction with the creation that allows us to respond to God's love in our life. The right use of the gifts of creation received in gratitude helps us to grow as persons of faith in the fellowship of others, as compared to the disordered use of creation for selfish gain and lack of gratitude by making them the center of our lives, hinders a relationship with God and others. I realize that this may seem unusual at first, especially if we come from a faith tradition that emphasizes the fallen nature of humanity and even the entire state of the word as a sin. Yet I think Ignatius is right in a strong of the belief that the goodness of God and God's creation is stronger than sin's ability to corrupt it. Thus, Ignatius's emphasis on it being how we use the things of the word and not the objects of the word themselves. Keep in mind that when we are grateful for something and praise it as good, it enhances our enjoyment of it. Viewing the good things of the word as gifts of God to be enjoyed by us to help us better learn about and understand the goodness of God as a gift giver. So to Ignatius, the good things of the word can be likened to a loved one baking your favorite type of cake or pie, in which case the best way, the best and most loving response would be to gratefully accept it and enjoy it. This not only helps to nurture our relationship with God and other people, but is also an act of self-love, as compared to a lack of gratitude and brushing off good things as of no concern, or even worse, despising them, leads to discontent, envy, and fighting. If others are criticizing something around us, you will likely end up enjoying it less, as compared to enjoying it more if the people around you are talking about how good it is. Therefore, a mindset of praise and gratefulness pleases God because it enhances our relationship with God and other people. Our thoughts and feelings determine how we see and interact with the world around us. The more of a gratitude mindset we have, the more abundance we will experience in our life. The richest people in life are the ones that are content with what they have and free from the desire for more, regardless of how little or much they have in the present moment. I seriously believe that a person that lives in a trailer park that is content with what they have is richer than a person with a six-figure income that lives in a luxury gated community, yet convinced that they do not have enough, as it is only when we are content with what we have that we can fully enjoy it. This is what Jesus was talking about when he said in John 10:10 that he came that we may have life and have it abundantly. God loves us and wants the very best for us in our lives. Jesus does not only want to save us from our sins, but also from the error of seeking fulfillment in things that are not able to satisfy us. This is where the prosperity gospel heresy gets it wrong, as it wrongly superimposes our secular view of material abundance upon the much greater life abundance that Jesus promises. Regardless of how much one has, it is impossible to have abundance without gratitude for what we have in our current situation. Paul urges us to, in everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus towards you, in 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Paul takes this one step further in Philippians 4:4-7. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. In nothing be anxious, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your thoughts in Christ Jesus. Where Paul points out that even our request and prayer should be within the larger context of offering thanks to God in our present situation. Given that if we are not able to be content and happy in our current situation, then no amount of additional blessings from God will be able to change that. More importantly, on top of that, Paul says that working thanksgiving into our prayers will guard our hearts and thoughts in Christ. This is important because in the biblical sense, our hearts are used to describe the center of our being, our values, passions, focuses, and the things that bring us joy. So in other words, Paul is literally saying that focusing on gratitude in our prayers, even when praying for the needs of ourselves and others, is also building up and strengthening our faith, as well as guarding us against setting our hearts towards false gods that will let us down. I first learned about the practice of keeping a gratitude journal from a friend who started one during a dark time in her life. Every day, she would write down a minimum of 20 things that she was grateful for in a notebook. The effect was twofold, as not only did it help her see how God was moving in her life and thank God for the blessings that she was receiving, her gratitude journal also gave her written proof in her own handwriting of how blessed she was whenever she felt discouraged. At times, she would even type up public subsets of her gratitude list and post them to the internet, which was what led me to the talking about it and learning from her experience of how the power of gratitude and thanksgiving had on our ability to live well, as it was only through gaining a mindset of gratitude that she was able to feel blessed and be able to enjoy current abundance, even in a less than ideal situation. As let's face it, life is too short to waste time feeling unhappy and unable to enjoy our current situation because we feel deprived in our lust for more. How are you when it comes to the practice of expressing gratitude in response to the blessings of God in your life? If it is an area that you feel that you are lacking in, especially if you only focus upon the super big things in life, then rejoice. Yes, you got that right. If you're struggling with giving thanks to God, that is wonderful news, as it means that there are lots of small things all around you that you have been missing that stand to make you much happier and full of joy once you start finding them and thanking God for them. Best of all, most of these things are not time consuming, so they fit in perfectly when it comes to sliding time pockets as small as when you're making a cup of tea. So here are a few ideas to take into consideration. In my personal experience, I find that gratitude journals can be very hit or miss when it comes to a daily practice. Sure, some people, like my friend, thrive on them. So if so, great. Other people, not so much. One of my personal favorite practices is what I call a reverse bucket list, which I did during a very low time of my life, during a major mental health crash. A reverse bucket list is where instead of writing out a list of things that you want to do before you die, is writing out a list of bucket list worthy things that you have already done. This practice really opened up my eyes to all of the wonderful opportunities I have had in my life, from the not only being able to take part in Boy Scouts, but also making Eagle Scout, being ordained as an elder in the church, which I will note is the highest position of church leadership that is defined by God in the Bible, and getting the opportunity to pet a giant tortoise, which was very friendly and responded to me touching its head by lifting up and extending its head fully out of its shell to give me more head to pet. My journaling practice also takes on more of a spiritual growth and a gratitude focus. I am very selective in what I write about in my journal, as I only write entries about positive insights, meaningful experiences, and the remarks from conversations with others that made me feel loved and supported. This often involves writing long emails to people about how they helped and supported me to do with the double duty. First, to build up other people, as we rarely realize the true extent that our actions have on others, and the second, to the document of the experience as being worth of the remembrance for the future of the review. So I just copy and paste the emails to the people about how they helped me into my journal on the computer. My favorite way to add more gratitude in my prayer life is to thank God for the people that I am praying for as I pray for them. I am sure that most, if not all of you, have a list of people that we lift up in prayer, or at least mean to, even if we rarely get to it. I find it is a lot more meaningful to first spend a minute or so thanking God for the positive difference the person makes in my life and the lives of others. It does not matter if the prayer is broken as you take time to reflect and think on the person that you are praying about, which God has blessed you with their presence in life. This time is probably the more intimate part of the prayer life when it comes to growing closer not only to God, but others in spirit, or anapar, as the Irish put it in a Gaelic or Old Irish, as it's also called. Anapar literally means soul friend, which is what the Irish use to describe the deepest type of relationship, where one is connected, not connected merely with their body or mind, but with their naked soul as the true core of the being. So if regularly praying for their physical, mental, and spiritual well-being while thanking God for the gift of their presence in your life is not how one creates soul friends, then I have no idea how it's done. Personally, since making this change to my prayer life, I have found that it's much easier to be consistent in praying for other people. Finally, another great way to express gratitude in your prayer life is to really savor and remember the times of your life that you felt super close to God. These special moments are worth taking the time to document, at the very least in a personal journal, not only for your own encouragement during lower times of life, but also for the testimony of being able to share how God has moved through your life. So think of the times and experiences that you felt extra close or touched by God, and reflect upon what exactly it was that stood out to you the most. Don't be discouraged when it comes to writing them out, as the deeper the experience, the harder it is to put into words. So you will literally need to set it down and come back to it over time to get it in a way that truly does it justice. I will conclude by sharing one of mine, which literally took close to a decade for me to fully put it into words. If I had to pick a single time that I felt extra close to God, I would share an experience that I had when I was in college. I was part of an on-campus Christian fellowship group, and we went to a chapter camp with other schools during the first week of summer break. The camp was both a major highlight of the college year, but also to some extent physically difficult for me due to my avascular necrosis bone condition. My junior year was especially hard on me physically, especially in terms of the lower back pain, to the point that I was taking heavy Advil all week. It peaked in intensity Wednesday evening after dinner during worship. After worship, the youth pastor of my college and a few others laid hands on me as they prayed for me before we broke up into our tracks. When I got to my Bible study track, the leader proposed doing something different because we were really ahead of schedule. Instead of continuing to cover the more newer material, to the regroup 15 minutes later at the camp's hot tub to talk about application issues from what we had already been studying so far that week. During the hot tub Bible study talks, the hot water and the water jets that I was sitting against slowly started to melt away the pain and tightness in my lower back, as well as my neck and shoulders. I did not fully realize how much it had been weighing me down for the week until the pain and tightness was completely gone. At the time, I did not think much of it, as I simply took it to be the result of the therapeutic effects of the hot water massage jets as the hot tub. As the time passed in the hot tub, as the late spring night got cooler and cooler, yet nobody in the hot tub noticed the shift in temperature until the time it was time to break for the evening. When it became clear how cold it was and the cold it has gotten, most of the people second-guessed it being a good idea to move the Bible study session to the hot tub in the evening. Unlike the others around me, I felt no need to rush and held back until the others had gotten out and ran off screaming about the cold into the night as they scattered back to the cabins as quickly as possible. After the others had cleared out, I slowly climbed out of the hot tub, heavily using the railing to help pull myself up the larger steps that doubled as a bench at the edge. Yet my initial surprise as I climbed out of the hot tub was that I did not feel any coldness of the spring night around me, but the continuation of the sense of warmth and comfort that had begun in the hot tub. I'm not sure when I fully realized that sense of warmth and comfort in the hot tub was not the mere therapeutic effect. Fact is, I initially mistaken it for, but a much stronger answer to the prayer prayed upon me earlier that evening. Upon reaching the bench next to the hot tub, I picked up my towel and attempted to quickly dry off the best I could there with wet hair on a dripping bathing suit before putting on my t-shirt. Sitting down, I dried off the feet and the legs and wrapped the towel around my waist to prevent the wet bathing suit from dripping into my sneakers. What happened next is hard to describe, as I cannot fully describe everything that happened, as my walk back to the cabin was a blur. It was almost as a bit of a trance-like spiritual state of being held within the comfort and warmth of God's love and embrace. As I slowly walked along the path back from the hot tub to my college's cabin, walking past the beach upon the shore of the lake by the hot tub, walking slowly along the path that hugged the bank of the lake. At the bank of the lake, I was awestruck by the light of the night around me. The brightness of the full moon shone upon the lake as it lit up the cloudy mist that hung over the smooth and reflected surface of the lake. The moon and even the stars were brightly reflected upon the lake, as well as the darker images of the trees bordering the far bank were also visible upon the peaceful calm and stillness of the waters. The moon and stars shone in a clear sky as the gentle glow of the pillar footpath lamp served almost as the divine light upon the trail that lit the path at my feet as they dotted the trail along the lake. Upon reaching the covered footbridge that covered the stream that flowed out of the mountain spring-fed lake, I paused for some time at the side window of the bridge, looking out as I watched the water flow over the waterfall of the dam at the edge of the lake as I listened to the peaceful sound of the slowly cascading water run into the mountain stream-fed lake on its way to the sea before returning again to the source. I'm not sure how long I was outside alone in the night before reaching the cabin, as I had no sense of the passing of time during my journey to the cabin. For the rest of the week, my back remained virtually pain-free. To this day, that night is a special time to look back at the back when I felt the loving hand of God's comforting compassion upholding me. Okay, I guess any other questions, comments, or things to share as we enter into our time of discussion?
That was nice, John. And I love a few things that you said about the gratitude journal, the reverse bucket list. I was writing down some notes. Contentment, I think, is just, I'm glad you touched on that. I think that is just so important. But you said three things and I wrote down two of them, and could you tell me what the middle one was? The first was your positive, you only write about three different types of things, right? Positive insights. The third one was the ways that people have helped you to feel supported. What was the second one?
Yeah. Let me double check. I know it said that basically things like the insights thrown in there, like if I take like notes from a class or the sermon that really touches me, or highlight points. Let's see, the meaning for conversations and insights from people. Let's see, I guess
I can look at your
meaning for the remarks,
right.
and I guess if you could say they are the emails to the people that do the double duty with the recording things and documenting them for myself. So if I'm going to take the time to write up something there to bless someone with the true extent that their actions had on me, that was the big one. And I know that you've been on the receiving end of
I have. I was going to say that I have been on the receiving end of some of those nice emails where you've pointed out something that I said that was meaningful, and I know you do it to lots of people because you're so thoughtful in the way you listen to what people say and take it to heart. So I think it's really nice that you share that. I was recently talking with my class about that. We had watched a TED Talk on everyday leadership, and in there, the guy challenges people to, let people know when they've had a meaningful effect on them. And, you can look it up. It's just called Everyday Leadership, but it reminded me of what you were talking about, of taking the time to share when someone has said something that was helpful or supportive or meaningful. And it's really nice that you do that, and then save those emails as a way to go back and remember a time when you felt supported. I really like that idea of, and sometimes I think we do that through text messages or through emails, but you take that extra step of saving them as part of your journal that you can look back at. And I think that's a really great idea.
That's right. I guess the other thing is, it's not so much, I think it's also more of the focus and the perspective of that there, because I think I'm guessing, I think probably more likely than not, everyone here has read the Elijah book there that I wrote. the account with the chapter of the Elijah's meltdown, when I talk about the time that I had the anxiety attack at church,
Mm-hmm.
that is actually based upon one of the journal entries,
Mm-hmm.
in that it's not necessarily writing about only good things, but but my takeaway points from that was the level of love and support from other people during that lower time of it, which ironically ended up being a turning point because the level of love and support during a pretty intense anxiety attack in turn made me much less likely to have future anxiety attacks at church because of the reassurance of knowing that if it's needed, I'd have the love and support. So just knowing in confidence that if it gets that bad, I'll be taken care of was enough to prevent the need for it.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think the whole time you were talking about your moving experience with really feeling the hand of God,
Mm-hmm.
I think about the week after my mom passed away, and I've often described it as feeling like I was being held in a prayer bubble, that I just felt, that there was something there giving me so much strength that I didn't know I had. And I really attribute it to the prayers of so many people who were, thinking about all of us at a difficult time. And it was really a powerful feeling at a terrible time. One of the toughest, most challenging times of my life. I'm so grateful for the way I felt so loved and supported by, people around me, but I know it was their prayers uplifting me and giving me strength through that time. And I think, those of us, when we think back to the toughest times we've had, reminds me a little bit of the Footprints poem, right? And that those are the times that we're being carried when we only see one set of footsteps and or footprints. So yeah, it kind of all ties together. But I love discussing just gratitude and Thanksgiving in our prayers, and a gratitude journal. And someone gave me one for Christmas, and Bill and I have been kind of writing in it together. And this is really making me feel like I want to do it more regularly. We've only put a few entries in so far, and this is making me reminded that it would be good to do on a more regular basis. So anyway, thank you for sharing all that, and thank the rest of you for listening to everything we have to say here. I am going to have to pop off. I've got grandkids here and they're sleeping over, and I promised to go in and read stories tonight, and they're heading to bed. So I'm gonna run and do that. So I hope you don't mind, but
Okay, that
thank you
sounds
all
good. Yeah,
so much.
that's the best reason to be able to leave it early.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Provide love, support, and care to other people.
You've put me in a great frame of mind to go and share some good night prayers. So thank you all. I'll see you soon. Take care. Have a great week.
Okay, bye. Have a
Bye.
good night. You're muted if you're trying to say something.
There we go. Oh, I was unmuted all that time then. I didn't realize. So teaching our children to have a thankful heart was important to my husband and I. And So this one time I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. And the middle boy and our daughter, the youngest, were in the car with me one time. I don't know where the older one was at the time. And we were driving somewhere. And I guess Libby was probably like 4 or 5. And Jordan is 9 years older than her. So he would have been like 13 or so. And we're driving. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna say some thank yous. We're gonna do our thank yous to God while my mommy's driving. And my daughter's like, okay, and my son's like, and so we're driving, and I'm like, come on, we're doing this. We're gonna tell God. We're each gonna go around in the car while we're driving, and we're gonna say something that we're thankful for to God. So I said, all right, I'll start. So I said, God, I'm thankful for Jesus saving me and dying for me. And then I said, okay, Libby, your turn. I'm thankful for my toys. And so I'm like, great, good job. I got Jordan, go ahead. I said, Jordan, come on, we're doing this. Finally, we're still driving. And we pull up to the stop sign. I said, Jordan, we are doing this. Now, say something you're thankful for. And he looks out. He said, I'm thankful for the stop sign. I was like, all right, we're inching along, pulling teeth, but we're taking steps here. I said, okay, my turn. I'm thankful for Daddy. And Libby's like, well, I'm thankful for my dolls. I'm like, good job, Libby. Jordan, your turn. I'm like, Jordan, we're doing this. And so he looked out the window. I'm thankful for grass. This is so funny. And but it's just something that you got to cultivate, in young people. And but anyway, it was just a funny story that came to my mind when you were talking about it. And now my son, that particular son, he's a deacon at his church. He was my wiggly one, let me tell you. And he's a deacon at his church and reading God's word and teaching his children to pray and in the Bible, and just so thankful. He's come a long way. Anyway, I just wanted to share that funny story.
Yeah, that's great there. And when you think, and the more that you think about it, it's like stop signs are the more important than you realize, especially the sad stories that you read about what happened some of the times when somebody stole the wrong stop sign. And the grass, lots of oxygen. How many animals eat it and live off of it, like my Russian tortoises in the wild? Grass is the primary staple of their diet.
Yeah, I think he was being more, I'm not really going to work hard on this, Mom. He's looking at whatever out the window.
It's also great there that he's a deacon now, and who knows, that might have had a positive influence on him towards growth. He just needed a push with it there, and you pushed him.
Tried.
It might have been a rough start there, but over time he got more steady.
Oh, and a lot of prayer. Let me tell you, all 3 of my kids now are in good churches and their families. And
It's okay. Just out of the curiosity, when you said that they're the deacon, and what church background is it there? If I'm asking, because deacon means different things in different circles.
Yeah, he goes to, it's called Victory Bible Church in South Jersey, in Hamilton, New Jersey.
Okay. Do they also have elders or trustees? Do they call them?
Yes. Well, that's like what our church had. My husband was a youth pastor for many years at a Baptist church. So we had trustees and we had deacons. The trustees did kind of like took care of the building, figured out, helped to decide, who looking for a pastor. Oh, actually, I guess they did. They did a lot of the physical stuff, and then the deacons did a lot of the I guess kind of the more, I guess you would, lack of a better term, more spiritual things, like, what kind of curriculum is being taught in the Sunday school. And although we had a department, it was the Christian education department, but somebody from that would probably come to the deacons meetings, and the deacons kind of like ran the body of the church, and, things that were going on. And
How much? Okay, that's enough for me to get it there, because
yeah.
because in the Reformed the tradition there that I'm part of, the elder, what we call elders is what his church is calling deacons.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I guess so it seems like that church is using what is sometimes called a single elder model, in that the elder is the pastor, because in that they interpret the pastor as an elder, and then the people that assist the church as deacons, compared to in the Reformed church, the elders are the people of the spiritual ones there that assist the pastor. The deacons take a more of they take a more of a money and business focus. They are the resources, and then the trustees that Wentz has added later on, they take care of to make things easier on the deacons. The physical upkeep and maintenance is what the trustees do, compared to in the Roman Catholic Church, like a Catholic deacon is practically the associate pastor, in that the main difference between a priest and a deacon is that deacons are allowed to marry, and they can basically do everything that a priest can do, except officiate over the sacraments. But they can do things like the preach there in the absence of a priest. They can use pre-consecrated Eucharist elements. So I guess that was why I asked there, because it was just deacon is sadly an ambiguous term.
Yeah, we would have deacons and deaconesses, and they were like the spiritual leaders with the pastor. And then we had trustees who did the physical upkeep and physical upkeep. Yep, that's how it kind of rolled.
Okay, and was the bookkeeping handled by the deacons or the trustees, like the money finances?
The trustees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I imagine the deacons would have certain influence on or approving things in terms of, like, say, like if the pastor wanted a special fund for, say, Christians in Ukraine kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, like I imagine there must have been some kind of rules, like, that those things would be approved and so on.
Yes, I'm not sure how of course, different churches have different systems. They are, like in the German Reformed Church, the branch there that Wentz's is in, we have the yearly budgets that are prepared by traditionally by the deacons, and then they have to come up and to be approved at a congregational meeting, and then anything that's not on the budget over, I think it's $1,000, has to be approved by a special congregational meeting. The only exception of that one there is in the case of emergency, like if you were to find out like what we had at the Wentz's a few years ago. This was in the late summer, early fall, when our head trustee made the scary discovery that our old steam heater for the church was leaking into its own electrical control box in the basement.
Oh boy.
and it would have taken, and congregational meetings have to be announced a minimum of 2 weeks in advance,
You're right.
and then with estimates, and if it was pretty much deemed there that, we can't turn on the steam boiler heater without safely, because we have no idea what would happen if you turn on something that's leaking water and the water into its electrical control system. So we were able to avoid the emergency meeting to approve buying a new heater, because that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That it's public safety. But it might be the similar to there that, okay, but if you had maybe the air conditioning broke, that's not needing a new air conditioner compressor is not a public safety issue. It might be a comfort level one, but nobody's going to die or burn down the church if you don't have a working air conditioner for one or
Right.
two Sundays.
Yeah, our old church was similar to that. Like if there was under $1,000, a committee could take care of that. But if it was more, we'd have to have a congregational meeting or congregational meeting, I guess they call that. Yep. Yeah. Very similar. Very similar. Yeah. I really like the idea too of the prayer journal. I mean, the Thanksgiving journal. I been thinking more and more how I want to journal what God's doing in my life and ways he's answering my prayers and ways he's illuminating his word to me and making connections, and just in that sense being very personal to me. And I've really been recently just being more and more clear how intimate and personal God is. And he's not just this far off being. He's very intimate and personal. And I don't want to forget these times. So I think I'm really going to start to journal. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because it's just been on my mind. And then you said it again tonight. And I really like the idea of writing the Thanksgiving things that we're thankful for journal, and the positive insights and the meaningful conversations parts too. It's so important. And I often think too, like when I pass away, if something like that is laying around in the house, when the kids clean things up and they find it and they have another yet experience with their mother that they didn't know they were going to get to have, when they read her thoughts and her heart regarding things like that. And I just think it's a good thing. It's a legacy kind of to give down to
Yeah, I guess that's something I'm going to be talking about in a later session, and I'm actually have it present in front of me on the desk so I can hold it up and show people during the discussion point. My paternal grandfather's Bible,
Yeah.
which you probably remember from the first version of the book of the class. So just with that one, and he also has some notes and things in it, actually.
Yeah.
From some of the highlights of that. So he's a lot of and I also have people copies of all his Sunday school lessons, which I'm in the process of slowly scanning into the computer, and I'm going to offer the copies of them to the other relatives. I also have my maternal grandmother's Sunday school lessons too.
Wow, that's awesome.
Both of my with the family, I guess there was a long legacy of the Grady's being elders and deacons in the German Reformed Church. It's long, complicated history, but I guess but at the moment, I'm the last Grady that's still actively involved in the church. And there was other people there, but they were, I guess you could say, with the daughters. So I said, well, some of them are still involved in the church. They don't bear the name Grady.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is such a beneficial. Our pastor talks all the time about journaling, and you can write down answered prayers in there, all those kinds of things you're thankful for, right? So I think as soon as we hang up, I'm going to go on Amazon and order a journal.
Do you connect more with the writing by hand, or?
Yes, I like
Okay,
writing. I'm
because-
old school, although I will say more and more I'm using my phone for, meal plans and my schedule, my daily planner kind of thing. It's a lot, really mostly on my phone because I have it all in one place. However, I really like writing. I like pens and paper, and I'm old school. I like school supplies and looking at the office supply in the grocery store, like, that aisle.
Mhm.
And so I will write it. In fact, Donna gave me this beautiful meal planner book. And so I've been writing in that, but then I transfer it into my phone, but I'm still writing it. Like, I like the writing.
That's
There's just
okay, because I
something,
often write rough drafts by hand.
yeah,
And when you talk about being more old-fashioned with things,
yeah,
I think you can see this clearly. This is my primary pen, if you can see.
yes,
It's a fountain pen,
nice.
and and I'm assuming that the copies of the books there that the Donna gave you were the ones that I had signed.
Mm-hmm.
Every signed book was signed with this pen. Just the biggest irony of it is the ink that I use.
Yeah,
Most of fountain pen inks, the black ones, or them actually some shade of gray. It's really hard to find a true black fountain pen ink. And I found one, it's gray, and I just don't want, if it's just the irony there that my books on prayer and things like that were signed with Heart of Darkness ink.
yeah,
That's
wow.
what-
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's something when writing by hand that's really kind of neat.